Companies Act, 2013, simple explanation. 1. Introduction. The Companies Act, 2013 was passed by the Indian Parliament on 8 August 2013 and became law after the President's approval on 29 August 2013. It replaced the Companies Act 1956, which was outdated and had been amended multiple times. The new law was introduced to make business operations easier in India. 2. Why was the new act needed? The 1956 Act was over 60 years old and did not match the modern business environment. It had been amended 25 times in 57 years, showing that it was no longer efficient. The 2013 Act brought major changes to simplify company laws. 3. What's in the Companies Act 2013? The new act has 29 chapters, 470 sections, and 7 schedules. The old 1956 Act had 658 sections and 14 schedules, meaning the new law is more streamlined. The phrase, "as may be prescribed," is used 336 times, meaning many details will be added later through rules. 4. How is the Act implemented? The central government will decide when different parts of the Act will come into effect. The Ministry of Corporate Affairs, MCA, will finalize the rules and make them available on their website www.mca.gov.in for public feedback. Some rules will be notified step by step in the official gazette. 5. Who was involved in the process? The Corporate Affairs Minister, Sachin Pilot, led the process of making the law transparent. The government worked with industry experts, political leaders, and consultants to finalize the rules. Short trick to remember. Can be easy. C. Corporate Affairs Minister led the process. Amendments, 1956 Act amended 25 times. N. New Act, 29 chapters, 470 sections. B. Business simplification, made business easier in India. E. Enforcement, step-by-step notification by Gov. E. Ease of doing business, main reason for change. A. Act replacement, 2013 replaced 1956 Act. S. Schedules reduced from 14 to 7. Y. Years of change, 60-plus years old law updated. This trick will help you recall the key aspects of the Companies Act 2013 easily. Key definitions under Companies Act 2013, simple explanation. 1. Financial statement. Section Financial Statement shows a company's financial health and includes balance sheet, snapshot of company's assets and liabilities at year-end. Profit and loss account shows company's income and expenses. Cash flow statement tracks money coming in and going out. Statement of changes in equity, if applicable. Explanatory notes, additional details about accounts. One-person companies, small companies, and dormant companies are not required to include a cash flow statement. 2. Key managerial personnel, KMP. KMP are important company officers responsible for decision-making. They include CEO, managing director or manager, head of the company. Company secretary handles legal compliance. Whole-time director, actively involved in management. Chief financial officer manages company finances. Any other officer prescribed by law. 3. Promoter, Section 69. A promoter is the person who starts or controls the company. This could be named in the company's prospectus, official document for investors, has direct-indirect control over the company, e.g. shareholder, director, influences board decisions except professionals like lawyers or accountants. 4. Small company, Section 285. A small company, a private company that meets these conditions. Paid-up capital 50 lakh, max 5 crore. Turnover 2 crore, max 20 crore. Not considered a small company if it is a holding or subsidiary company, it is a Section 8 company, non-profit organization, it is governed by special act. 5. Dormant companies in 455. A dormant company is one that is registered for a future project, owns assets or intellectual property but is not doing business, has no significant financial transactions. These companies can apply to the Registrar of Companies for dormant status to avoid unnecessary compliance. Short trick to remember, FKPSD. F. Financial statement, company's financial report. Key managerial personnel, top management team. Promoter, person who starts controls the company. S. Small company, private company with limited capital turnover. D. Dormant company, inactive but registered for future use. Tip: FKPSD sounds like focus on key people and small details, helping you recall these definitions easily. Important provisions of Companies Act 2013, simple explanation. 1. Classification and registration of companies. This defines how companies are classified and registered. Key points: one-person company, OPC, introduced, a company with only one owner. Small companies concept, less strict rules for small businesses. Company conversion, existing companies can change their type, e.g., private to public. Faster registration, online registration with e-governance. Entrenchment in articles, special rules can be added to protect company interests. Declaration at registration, must be signed by company officials and professionals, CA, CS, lawyer. 2. Registered office of a company. A company must have a registered office from the 15th day after incorporation to receive official communications. Verification of office must be submitted to the registrar within 30 days. Name changes. If a company changed its name in the last 2 years, it must display both old and new names. Notice of change. If the office address changes, notify the registrar within 15 days. F3. Commencement of business. Before starting business or borrowing money, a company must ensure all shareholders have paid for their shares, have a minimum paid-up capital, 5 lakh for public companies, 1 lakh for private companies. Register office verification with the registrar. 4. Registration of charges. If a company takes a loan, it must register the charge, collateral security on its assets with the registrar. Short trick to remember: CRCRC. Classification and registration. Types of companies and how they register are: registered office. Office must be set up and verified. Commencement of business. Capital and documents needed before starting. Registration of charges. Loans must be recorded. Tip: CRCR equals company rules clearly recorded. Helps you recall the key provisions easily. Important provisions of Companies Act 2013, simple explanation. 1. Annual return. Every company must file an annual return with details of its financial year, signed by Director and Company Secretary, CS, or only CS if no director available. If it's a listed company, the CS in practice must also certify it for accuracy. For one-person company, OPC, and small company, the return can be signed by just one director. Listed companies must report shareholding changes of promoters and top 10 shareholders within 15 days. 2. Keeping registers. Companies can keep registers at any place in India, not just their registered office. If more than 10% of members live there, it is approved by special resolution in a meeting. Registrar is informed in advance. 3. General meeting. Annual general meeting AGM must be held between 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., not on a national holiday. First AGM within 9 months from the first financial year end. Notice must be given 21 days before the meeting. Shareholders can vote electronically in certain companies. Listed companies must file an AGM report with the registrar within 30 days. Quorum, minimum members needed in a meeting. Up to 1,000 members, 5 members. 1,001 to 5,000 members, 15 members. More than 5,000 members, 30 members. One-person companies can skip AGM. 4. Corporate social responsibility, CSR. If a company has net worth 500 CR plus or turnover net profit 5 CR plus, it must form a CSR committee, 3+ directors, 1 must be independent. CSR spending, 2% of last 3 years' average profits, must be spent on social activities. Short trick to remember: ARG, annual return. Companies must file yearly reports. Registers can be kept outside the registered office. G, general meeting. Rules for AGMs, notices, and quorum. Corporate social responsibility, CSR. Big companies must spend on social welfare. Tip: ARGC equals all rules get covered. Helps you recall key provisions easily. Key provisions of Companies Act 2013. Simple explanation. 1. A company must appoint an auditor at its first AGM for 5 years. Listed companies cannot reappoint an individual auditor for more than one 5-year term, an audit firm for more than 2 5-year terms. Auditors must be informed about all general meetings and have the right to attend and speak. 2. Cost audit. No need for central gov approval to appoint a cost auditor. Company members decide the auditor's salary. Directors. Board must have only individuals as directors. Maximum 15 directors, more can be added via special resolution. Certain companies must have at least one woman director. One director must have stayed in India for 182 plus days in the last year. Listed companies must have at least 1/3 independent directors. Independent director rules can serve one 5-year term, reappointed via special resolution. Max 2 consecutive terms, then 3-year gap required. Director appointment rules. Must provide director identification number. Must file consent within 30 days before acting as a director. To contest elections, a person must submit a written notice 14 days before the meeting. Deposit 1 lakh, refundable if elected or gets 25% votes. A person cannot be a director in more than 20 companies, max 10 in public companies. Short trick to remember, ACD, auditors, 5-year appointment, listed companies have limits. C, cost audit, no GovT approval, salary decided by members. D, directors, rules for appointment, max limit, and independent directors. Tip, ACD equals audit cost directors, helps you recall key provisions quickly. Independent director and board meetings, simplified explanation. 1. Independent director. An independent director is someone who is not influenced by company management and ensures fair decisions. Qualities required. Honest and experienced. Board must believe they have integrity. Not a promoter. Should not have founded or owned the company. Not related to promoters or directors. No financial transactions with the company in the last 2 years. Family members should also not have major financial dealings with the company. Who cannot be an independent director? Past employees. Worked in the company in the last 3 years. Past auditors, consultants, or legal advisors, if they earned 10% or more of their firm's turnover from the company. Owns 2% or more voting shares in the company. Part of an NGO that gets 25% plus funding from the company. Board meetings. Rules for board meetings. First meeting must happen within 30 days of company registration. At least 4 meetings every year with not more than 120 days gap between 2 meetings. Meetings can be held online. Video conferencing is allowed. At least 7 days. Notice should be given before the meeting. Can be sent via email. Directors attending via video call will be counted in the meeting. No insider trading allowed for directors and key managers. Short trick to remember. Independent director. Unbiased. No past strong connections. B. Board meetings. Must follow timelines. Video calls allowed. B. Ban on insider trading. Directors cannot misuse company secrets. Tip. IBB Independent Board ban. Helps recall key points instantly. Managerial personnel. Company secretary and amalgamations. Simplified explanation. 1. Managerial personnel. Managerial personnel are key people who manage a company, like the managing director, MD, chief executive officer, CEO, company secretary, CS, and chief financial officer, CFO. Important rules. Term limit. They cannot be appointed for more than 5 years at a time. MD and chairperson cannot be the same person, except if company rules allow. If a managerial position is vacant, it must be filled within 6 months by the board. 2. Company secretary and secretarial audit. A company secretary, CS, ensures that a company follows legal and financial rules. Duties of a C reports to the board about law compliance. ensures secretarial standards, proper documentation and meeting rules, handles audits and submits a secretarial audit report for listed companies. 3. Compromises, arrangements, and amalgamations. When companies merge or restructure, they must follow legal procedures. Key rules: auditor's certificate required before approving a merger, separate rules for small company mergers and parent-subsidiary mergers. Cross-border mergers, India plus foreign company, allowed if approved by government. If an acquirer owns 90% plus shares, they can buy remaining shares from minority shareholders. Short trick to remember: MAC-M, managerial personnel, MD, CEO, CS, CFO, max 5 years. A. Amalgamations, merger rules, auditor's approval, 90% shareholding rule. C. Company secretary, ensures compliance, reports to board, audits. Tip: MAC-Will's managerial amalgamation compliance, easy way to recall key concepts. Amendments in Companies Act 2013 simplified explanation. 1. Changes in AGM rules. AGM, Annual General Meeting, is a yearly meeting where shareholders discuss company performance. Key updates: first AGM must be held within 9 months of the financial year closing. Earlier, it was 18 months. Time fixed. Meetings must be between 9 a.m. 6 p.m. Earlier, no fixed hours. National holidays restriction: AGM cannot be held on a national holiday. Earlier, it couldn't be on a public holiday. 2. Short notice for AGM. Now 95% of members' consent is required for a short notice meeting. Earlier, 100% was needed. 3. Disclosure of interests and shareholding. Directors, managers, and key personnel must disclose their interests in business matters. Ownership disclosure reduced from 20% to 2%. Means more transparency. Mastor 4. Quorum, minimum members for a valid meeting. If members 1,000 need at least 5 members. If members 1,000 but let's say 5,000 need 15 members. If members 5,000 need 30 members. 5. Proxy rules, who can vote on behalf of a shareholder. A proxy representative can represent max 50 members or holders of 10% of total shares. Voting rights. Private companies cannot restrict voting except in cases like unpaid dues. 7. Compliance for listed companies. Listed companies must file an AGM report confirming the meeting was conducted as per the law. Short trick to remember: square notice, 95% consent needed. Quorum rules: 5, 15, 30 members based on size. Unpaid calls and voting, no restriction except unpaid dues. A. AGM rules: 9 months, business hours, no national holiday. R. Reporting compliance, AGM report mandatory for listed firms. E. Election and proxy, proxy limits, 50 members, 10% shares. Tip: square equals structure for quick understanding of AGM and regulations. Easy way to recall key amendments. Companies Act 2017, simple explanation. Why was the 2017 amendment needed? The Companies Act 2013 replaced the old Companies Act 1956 to bring better rules for businesses. However, 2013 Act had many issues like unclear rules and conflicts. To fix these problems, the Companies Amendment Act 2017 was introduced. 2. Who suggested these changes? In 2015, the Companies Law Committee C was formed to identify and solve issues in the 2013 Act. After discussions, the government proposed the Companies Amendment Bill 2016 in Parliament. It was passed in 2017 and approved by the President on the 3rd of January 2018. 3. What did the 2017 amendment focus on? Better corporate governance, ensuring companies follow ethical practices. Ease of doing business, making it easier to start and run companies in India. Stronger compliance rules, ensuring companies obey laws properly. More investor protection, protecting the rights of people investing in companies. 4. When did it become law? The President approved it on 3rd January 2018, but different sections were implemented on different dates by the government. Short trick to remember: best, B. Better corporate governance. E. Ease of doing business. S. Stronger compliance. Tighter investor protection. Tip: the 2017 amendment is the best way to improve companies in India. Amendments in Companies Act 2017. Simple explanation. 1. Why were these amendments made? The 2013 Act had many strict rules, making it difficult for companies to follow. The 2017 amendment fixed errors, removed unnecessary rules, and introduced new provisions for easier business operations. It also introduced stricter penalties to ensure companies follow the law. 2. Key changes in the 2017 amendment. A. Incorporation and company registration. Name reservation, now valid for 20 days instead of 60 days. Simpler process, only declarations needed instead of affidavits. Conversion of firms, partnership firms, LLPs, and societies can convert to private companies with just 2 members. Earlier 7 were needed. B. Business operations and compliance. No specific business object needed. Companies can now mention any lawful activity instead of a detailed object clause. Registered office change must inform ROC within 30 days, earlier 15 days. Sweat equity shares can be issued anytime. Earlier had to wait 1 year. C. Directors and key managerial personnel. Employees can authenticate documents, not just directors and KMPs. Senior employees can be KMPs. Officers 1 level below directors can be KMPs. Resident director requirement must stay in India for 180 days in a financial year, earlier calendar year. Independent director nomination, no need to deposit 1 lakh. Director disqualification, if disqualified under Section 164, they must leave all companies except the defaulting one. D. Corporate social responsibility now applies to foreign companies too. CSR eligibility is based on the previous financial year, not the last 3 years. E. Meetings and filings. AGM of unlisted companies can be held anywhere in India if all members agree. No need to ratify auditor appointment. Earlier it was required every year. Filing of MGT 10 and MGT 14 with ROC, no longer required. F. Financial and investment rules. CEO must sign financial statements. No need to repeat financial disclosures in board reports. Joint ventures. Their financials won't be consolidated with the parent company. Private companies can invest without layer restrictions. G. Private placement and penalties. Private placement only for identified persons. Board must approve investors. Funds cannot be used until filing with ROC. Return of allotment, Pass 3, must be filed within 15 days, earlier 30 days. Penalty for late filing, 1,000 per day, up to 25 lakhs. Hash short trick to remember. Spin top, S, simpler registration. Name reservation, declarations instead of affidavits. Private placement changes. Identified investors, new format. I. Investor protection and penalties, 1,000 per day fine for late filings. No specific business object needed, any lawful activity allowed. T. Tighter compliance for directors and KM residency rules authentication. O. Operational flexibility, AGM location, CSR changes, filings reduced. Private companies can convert and invest freely. Tip. Spin top brings balance to company laws. Meaning of a company, simple explanation. 1. What is a company? A company is a group of people who come together to do business and make a profit. They contribute money, capital, and get shares in return. Example. Imagine 5 friends starting a business together. Each contributes 10,000 and they decide to divide ownership into shares. If one wants to leave, they can sell their shares to someone else. 2. Key features of a company. Artificial person. A company is not a human, but it has legal rights, can buy property, sue or be sued. Separate legal entity. The company and its owners are different. If the company takes a loan, owners don't have to pay personally. Limited liability. Owners only lose the money they invested if the company fails. Their personal property is safe. Perpetual succession. The company continues to exist even if owners change or die. Common seal, used instead of a signature for official documents. Shares are transferable. Owners can sell their shares to others. 3. Definitions by experts. Indian Companies Act 1956. A company is any business registered under this act. Prof. Haney. A company is an artificial person created by law with a separate identity and a common seal. Chief Justice Marshall. A company exists only in law, meaning it is not a physical person but has legal rights. Lindley L.J. A company is a group of people who put money together for a business and share profits or losses. Short trick to remember. Split, S separate legal entity. P, perpetual succession. Limited liability I, investment in shares. Transferable ownership. A company splits ownership among shareholders. What makes a company special? A company is a business organization that has legal rights separate from its owners. It is formed by registration under the Companies Act and has certain unique features that make it different from other businesses like sole proprietorships or partnerships. 2. Key features of a company. 1. Registered business, incorporated association. A company must be registered under the Companies Act. Minimum 7 members for a public company and 2 members for a private company. If a business has more than 10 people in banking or 20 in other businesses without registration, it is illegal. 2. Artificial person. A company is not a human, but the law treats it like a person. It cannot think or act on its own. Board of Directors makes decisions. 3. Separate legal entity. A company is different from its owners. Even if the owners change, the company remains. Example, Salomon's case, 1897. The court ruled that a company is separate from its owner, Mr. Salomon. Limited liability. Owners only lose the money they invested in the company. Example, if a company fails and you own 10 shares, paid 7, you only pay 3 more. 5. Perpetual existence. A company continues forever, even if all members die. Example, during a war, all members of a company died in a bomb blast, but the company still existed. 6. Common seal. A company cannot sign like a person. It uses a common seal as its official signature. 7. Right to sue. Legal rights. A company can sue others or be sued in court. 8. Owns property. A company can buy, sell, and own property in its name. Example, McCore versus Northern Assurance Co. A man owned nearly all shares of a timber company but was denied an insurance claim because the timber was in the company's name, not his personal name. 9. Transfer of shares. Shares can be sold or transferred to others. In private companies, transfer is restricted but not completely banned. 3. Short trick to remember. Split clot. Separate legal entity. P. Perpetual existence. L. Limited liability. I. Incorporation registered business. T. Transferability of shares. C. Common seal. L. Legal rights, can sue and be sued. O. Owns property. Artificial person. Tip. A company splits ownership but keeps the clot of legal protection. Classification of companies. Simple explanation. 1. How are companies classified? Companies are classified based on 1. How they are formed, incorporation. 2. How much owners are responsible for debts, liability. 2. Types of companies based on incorporation. 1. Chartered companies, old method, not in India. These companies were formed by a king, queen's permission, royal charter. Example, East India Company, British rule. This type of company does not exist in India anymore. 2. Statutory companies, made by government law. These companies are created by a special law passed by the government. Examples, RBI, SBI, LIC, UTI, Indian Railways. They do not have memorandum or articles of association, like other companies. 3. Registered companies, formed under Companies Act. These companies are registered under the Companies Act, 1956 or 2013. Most private and public companies today are registered companies. 3. Types of companies, based on liability. 1. Limited liability companies. Owner's risk is limited. The owner's shareholders only lose what they invested, not personal assets. Types A, limited by shares. Owners pay only the remaining amount on their shares. Example, if a share is 10 and the owner paid 7 as a 7, he only needs to pay 3 more. B, limited by guarantee. Owners promise to pay a fixed amount only if the company closes. C, limited by shares and guarantee, a mix of both types. Owners pay for shares plus a fixed amount when winding up. 2. Unlimited companies, high risk, owners pay everything. Owners are fully responsible for the company's debts. If the company closes, owners must pay from personal wealth. 4. Short trick to remember, CSR, chartered companies, statutory companies, ART, registered companies, L, limited liability, U, unlimited liability. Tip, CSR is for legal units, LU. Think of CSR, corporate social responsibility, in legal units. Classification of companies, simple explanation. 1. Types of companies, based on number of members. 1. Private company, small, private business, a company with a minimum of 1 lakh capital, earlier, but now as per the 2013 Act, the maximum members can be 200. Key features. Shares cannot be freely sold. No public trading. Limited to 200 members. Only a small group can own it. No public investment. Cannot ask the public to buy shares or lend money. Example, family business, like Reliance Jio in its early days before going public. 2. Public company, large, publicly owned. A company that is not private and can invite the public to buy shares. Key features. Shares are freely transferable. Anyone can buy or sell. No limit on the number of shareholders. Minimum capital of 5 lakh required. Example, Tata Motors, Infosys, Wipro. 2. Types of companies based on control. 1. Holding company. A company that owns more than 50% shares or controls the board of directors of another company. Example, Tata Sons Holding controls Tata Motors, Tata Steel, Tata Power, subsidiaries. 2. Subsidiary company, controlled company. A company controlled by a holding company. It follows the decisions of its holding company. Example, Tata Motors is a subsidiary of Tata Sons. 3. Types of companies based on ownership. 1. Government company, owned by Gov. 51% or more shares are owned by central or state government. Example, BL, ONGC, LIC. 2. Foreign company, registered abroad, works in India. Registered outside India, but has an office in India. Example, Google India, Microsoft India. 3. One-man company, solo owner, fake members. One person owns most shares, but adds dummy members to meet legal requirements. Example, Salomon & Co., Limited. Hash 4. Short trick to remember, PO, private company, H, holding company, O, one-man company, G, government based, tip-based. F, foreign company. Tip, Fogo F sounds like phone go. Easy to recall. Lifting of corporate veil. Simple explanation. What is the corporate veil? Corporate veil means a legal separation between a company and its owners, shareholders. The company is treated as an independent entity. Lifting the corporate veil happens when courts break this separation to find out the real truth behind the company's actions. Example, if a businessman creates a company only to avoid taxes, the court can ignore the company's separate identity and hold him responsible. When does the court lift the corporate veil? 1. To protect government revenue. If a company is created to avoid taxes, courts can treat its income as the owner's income. Example, a businessman creates fake companies to receive interest, dividends, and take loans from them, which he never repays. The court treats all income as his personal income. Or 2. Company acting as an agent. If the company is just a front for its owners and does not act independently, courts can be enemy character of company. The company. If a company is controlled by people from an enemy country, courts may declare it an enemy company. Example, during World War I, a company was found to be controlled by German nationals. The court declared it an enemy company. 4. Company formed for fraud. If a company is created just to commit fraud, courts can ignore its legal status and punish the real person behind it. 5. Against public interest. If a company is against the welfare of society or national security, courts can hold its owners responsible. 6. Avoiding employee welfare laws. Some companies try to escape labor laws by showing false records. Courts can investigate and expose the truth. 7. Avoiding legal obligations. If a company is formed just to escape a contract, courts treat it as non-existent. Example, a person agrees not to compete with a business, but later starts a new company for competition. The court stops him from doing so. Short trick to remember. PAF, P, protect revenue. A, agent of shareholders. Fraudulent purpose. A, against public interest. Legal obligation avoidance. Fake compliance avoiding laws. Tip, PALF sounds like pay feel. Easy to recall. Statutory exceptions to lifting the corporate veil. Simple explanation. What are statutory exceptions? Statutory exceptions are situations where the law itself allows the corporate veil to be lifted, i.e., the company's separate identity is ignored. The law holds certain people personally responsible in cases like fraud, legal violations, or failure to meet company requirements. When can the corporate veil be lifted by law? 1. Too few members. A public company must have at least 7 members, and a private company must have at least 2 members. If a company continues for more than 6 months with fewer members, those who know about it are personally responsible for the company's debts. 2. Failure to refund money. If a company fails to return investors when shares are not allotted within 130 days, the directors must pay it back with interest. 3. Wrong company name on documents. If someone signs contracts or documents on behalf of the company without mentioning the company's name, they will personally be responsible for the contract. 4. Fraudulent trading. If a company runs a business to cheat creditors, the court can make the responsible people personally pay all debts. 5. Holding and subsidiary companies. Normally, a parent holding company and its subsidiary are separate, but in 2 cases, the court can treat them as one single entity. 1. The group's financial statements must show both the parent and subsidiary's finances together. If the subsidiary is fully controlled by the parent, it may be treated as a department of the parent company instead of a separate company. Short trick to remember. TFF, too few members. F, failure to refund money. W, wrong name on documents. H, holding and subsidiary company. Fraudulent trading. Tip, TFWHF, the fun way helps finance. Formation of a company. Simple explanation. What is company formation? A company is a separate legal entity created under the Companies Act to conduct business and earn profits. Before a company is officially registered, a group of people, called promoters, come together to start the process to form a company. 1. Minimum members required. Public company needs 7 or more people. Private company needs 2 or more people. These people agree to start the company for a lawful business purpose. 2. Memorandum of Association, MOA. This is a legal document that founders sign to create the company. It defines the name, objectives, and structure of the company. 3. Types of companies. Limited by shares, owner's liability is only up to their shares. Limited by guarantee, Owners provide a financial guarantee in case of losses. Unlimited company. Owners have full liability for all debts. Short trick to remember: MMT, minimum members. M, memorandum of association. T, types of companies. Tip: My Money Talks, to remind you that forming a company is all about business and finance. Steps in the formation of a company. Simple explanation. A company is not like a sole proprietorship or partnership, where you can start without registration. It has a legal process to be followed. 4 stages of company formation. 1. Promotion stage. Idea and planning. Someone gets a business idea and investigates if it's profitable. People, called promoters, collect details, plan resources, and get investors. 2. Incorporation stage. Legal registration. The company gets registered by submitting documents like Memorandum of Association, MOA, Purpose of Company, Articles of Association, AOA, Rules for Internal Management, List of Directors and their consent, who will manage, Statutory Declaration, legal proof that rules are followed. 3. Subscription flotation stage. Raising funds. Public companies need permission from SEBI to collect money from the public. Steps include appointing brokers and underwriters to sell shares, issuing prospectus, public notice about shares, getting listed on the stock exchange, allotting shares to investors. So 4. Commencement stage. Start of business. Company submits copy of the prospectus, official document for investors, return of allotment, who got how many shares, proof of minimum subscription, minimum required funds raised, permission for listing, final approval to operate. After this, the company can officially start business. Short trick to remember: promotion and plan. I, incorporation, legal registration. S, subscription, raising money. C, commencement, start business. Tip: please incorporate successful company. This promotion of a company. Simple explanation. What is promotion? Promotion is the first step in starting a company. It is about finding a business idea and arranging everything needed, money, resources, and management, to make it real. According to Juristenberg, it is about discovering business opportunities and organizing funds, property, and management to make a profit. Who are promoters? A company is not a real person. It's an artificial entity, so someone has to think of the idea and plan everything, like what kind of company? Private, public. How big should it be? Size and scale. Who will manage it? Structure and leadership. These people are called promoters. Example. Imagine you and your friends want to start a cafe. You decide on the location, menu, and investment. You arrange money from investors. You finalize a team to manage the cafe. In this case, you all are the promoters. You arrange, short trick to remember: POP, promotion, in the business idea. O, organization, arranging money and resources. Team, finalizing structure and management. Tip: pot of ideas starts a company. Who are promoters? Simple explanation. Definition: a promoter is a person or group who takes the initiative to start a company. They think of a business idea, check if it's profitable, and gather resources like money, people, and machines to make it successful. Key points to remember: the Companies Act 1956 does not clearly define a promoter, but it is mentioned in several sections. According to Lord Justice Brown, a promoter is not a legal term, but a business concept that describes how a company is created. Justice Lindley says that a promoter is someone who puts in effort to start a company. What does a promoter do? A promoter does the following: finds business opportunities, thinks of a new idea, checks feasibility, investigates if the idea will work, arranges resources, money, people, machines, combines everything, makes it a profitable business, starts the company, takes legal steps. Types of business opportunities: A promoter may start a company based on 1. Using natural resources, e.g. mining new minerals. 2. New inventions, e.g. electric cars. 3. Innovative selling methods, e.g. online shopping. 4. New manufacturing techniques, e.g. 3D printing. 5. New product uses, e.g. coconut water for skincare. 6. Unique packaging, e.g. eco-friendly bottles. 7. New trading ideas, e.g. drop shipping. As short trick to remember, PIMCAN, promoter, finds the idea, investigates, checks if it will work. M, money and resources, arranges. C, combines everything, starts the business. E, looks at future profits, launches the company. Tip, a promoter can start a company. Legal position of a promoter, simple explanation. Who is a promoter legally? A promoter is not an agent because there is no company yet, and not a trustee because there is no owner yet. But he has a fiduciary duty, meaning he must act honestly and in the best interest of the company. Key responsibilities of a promoter. Full disclosure. Must share all important details about the company. Honesty. Should not make secret profits. Fair dealings. Any transaction with the company must be transparent. Accountable for secret profits. If he earns hidden money from the company, he must return it. Why is a promoter important? A promoter has the power to shape the company, deciding its structure, timing, and supervision. Think of him like an architect who designs a building before construction begins. Short trick to remember, fiduciary duty, act honestly. Accountability, no secret profits. T, transparency, fair transactions. F, full disclosure, reveal all facts. Tip, a promoter should be FF, fair, accountable, transparent, and faithful. Functions and duties of a promoter, simple explanation. Who is a promoter? A promoter is the person who plans, arranges, and organizes everything needed to start a company. Key functions and duties of a promoter. 1. Ideation. Think of a business idea. What to do? What type of company? 2. Preliminary investigation. Check resources, land, workers, materials, transport. 3. Arranging resources. Arrange initial funds before selling shares. 4. Arranging finance. Contact investors, banks for bigger funding. 5. Preparing preliminary documents. Draft important documents. MOA, Memorandum of Association. Purpose of the company. AOA, Articles of Association, Rules and Regulations. Prospectus, Invitation to investors. 6. Preliminary contracts. Sign contracts for land, machines, etc. Risky. If company rejects, promoter must pay. 7. Naming the company. Pick a unique name, can't copy an existing one. 8. Appointing experts. Hire bankers, brokers, lawyers, underwriters. 9. Obtaining license. Get legal approval, if required. Short trick to remember. IPA. I. Ideation. Preliminary investigation. A. Arranging resources. P. Planning finance. Creating documents. Preliminary contracts. N. Naming the company. A. Appointing experts. O. Obtaining license. Final trick word, caption, on tracks, arrangements, planning. Title, ideation, obtaining license, naming. Tip, a promoter gives the caption to a company's story. Liability and rights of a promoter, simple explanation. Who is a promoter? A promoter is the one who plans and starts a company, but if they make a secret profit or do something wrong, the company can take action against them. What happens if a promoter hides profit? If a promoter makes money secretly, the company can 1. Sue the promoter to get the hidden profit plus interest. 2. Cancel the deal and take back its money. Other liabilities of a promoter, as per Companies Act, 1956. 1. False statements in prospectus, Sec 62 and 63. If the promoter lies in the prospectus, shareholders can sue. Punishment. jail up to 2 years or 5,000 fine. 2. Missing important information, Sec 56. If the promoter does not follow rules for the prospectus, they can be held responsible. 3. Fraud investigation, Sec 478 and 19. If fraud is suspected, the court can call the promoter for public questioning. 4. Breach of trust, Sec 543. If a promoter misuses company funds during winding up, closing the company, the court can hold them guilty. What if there are multiple promoters? All promoters are jointly and individually responsible. If one promoter is sued, they can ask the others to share the penalty. If a promoter dies, their property is still responsible for the dues. If a promoter goes bankrupt, the company can still claim the money in insolvency proceedings. Short trick to remember. F. Fraud investigation. L. I. Important info missing. P. B. Breach of trust. Final trick word. Flip. A promoter must not flip the truth, otherwise they face punishment. Incorporation stage simple explanation. What is incorporation? It is the second stage of forming a company. It means registering the company under the Companies Act, 1956. After this, the company becomes a separate legal entity, different from its owners. Why is incorporation important? Once a company is incorporated, it gets special powers. 1. Own property. The company can buy land, buildings, etc. in its name. 2. Sign contracts. The company can make agreements like renting an office. 3. Sue and be sued. If someone cheats the company, it can file a case. If the company cheats someone, they can sue it. 4. Unlimited life. The company continues to exist even if owners or members change. Example: imagine a restaurant. Foodie Pte Limited is registered. Now it can buy a building in its name, sign contracts with suppliers, be sued if it serves bad food. Short trick to remember. O. Own property. S. Sign contracts. S. Sue and be sued. L. Long life, unlimited existence. Final trick word, loss, reversed as OSSL. A company avoids loss by incorporating legally. Mode of forming a company, Section 12, simple explanation. How to form a company. Minimum members required. Private company, at least 2 people. Public company, at least 7 people. They must sign a document called the Memorandum of Association. Must follow legal rules for registration. Types of companies based on liability. Liability equals responsibility to pay debts if the company faces losses. 1. Company limited by shares. Liability equals limited to the amount unpaid on shares. Example: if a person buys shares worth 1,000 but has paid only 80,000, he can be asked to pay the remaining 20,000 if needed. 2. Company limited by guarantee. Liability equals limited to a fixed amount promised by members. Example: a non-profit organization where members agree to pay 5,000 each if the company shuts down. 3. Unlimited company. Liability, no limit. Members may have to pay all debts if the company fails. Example: if a company has a loss of 10 crore, the members must arrange this money from their own assets. Example: company limited by shares. Reliance Industries, owners risk only their investment. Company limited by guarantee. NGO like Red Cross, members contribute a fixed amount. Unlimited company, rare as it is too risky for members. Short trick to remember. Slug, S, shares, legers. L, limited by guarantee. U, unlimited company. G, group, minimum members needed, 2 for private, 7 for public. Final trick word, slug. Think of a slow slug moving through company formation rules. Procedure for company incorporation, simple explanation. How to register, incorporate a company. 1. Choose a name. Pick at least 5 names in order of preference. Ensure the name is unique and legal. Registrar of Companies will check. 2. File important documents. Memorandum of Association, MOA, Purpose and Rules of the Company, Articles of Association, AOA, Internal Management Rules, Office Address Notice, inform where the company will operate, Directors' Details, Names, Addresses, and Agreements, Written Consent, Directors must agree to serve, Statutory Declaration, a lawyer or CA must confirm legal rules are followed, Fee Payment, Registration fees and stamp duty, 3. Verification by Registrar. The Registrar of Companies, or OC, checks if all rules are followed. 4. Certificate of Incorporation. If everything is correct, the Registrar issues a Certificate of Incorporation. Once issued, the company becomes a legal entity with perpetual existence. Example: a startup wants to register a company. It submits all documents and gets the certificate. Now it can do business legally. Short trick to remember: name, file, verify, CISA, VC. N. F. Filing of documents. V. Verification by Registrar. C. Certificate of Incorporation. Final trick word: fine. Think of making everything fine for company formation. Duties of a company secretary. Who is a company secretary? A company secretary, CS, is like the company's official manager for legal work. They help register the company and take care of all legal formalities before and after incorporation. Duties of company secretary. Before incorporation, company not yet registered. 1. Meetings for promoters. Arrange discussions for founders. 2. Submit documents, file forms to register the company. 3. Handle registration. Ensure legal approval. 4. Draft AOA and MOA. Write company rules and objectives. 5. Get Certificate of Incorporation. Officially register the company. 6. Promoters meeting. Conduct planning meetings. After incorporation, company is now legal. 1. Board meetings. Organize meetings for company directors. 2. Circulate prospectus. Share details about shares for investors. Collect certificate of commencement. Required for public companies to start business. 4. File reports. Submit important company reports to the registrar. 5. Plan director meetings. Keep directors updated. 6. Arrange statutory meeting. Conduct the first official company meeting. Example: imagine a startup registers as a company. The company secretary submits all forms, gets approval, and arranges meetings. After registration, they ensure smooth operations by handling legal paperwork and director meetings. Short trick to remember: meet, file, register, manage. M. Meetings, for promoters and directors. F. Filing documents, for registration. R. Registration and reports, incorporation and statutory reports. M. Management, legal and board management. Final trick word: form. Think of forming a company and managing it. Subscription flotation stage, simple explanation. What is the subscription flotation stage? Once a company is registered and gets its certificate of incorporation, it needs money to start its business. This process of raising capital is called flotation. How companies raise money? Private company, limited to friends and family. A private company cannot ask the public to invest. It collects money from friends, family, or private investors. Public company can invite public. A public company has 2 options. 1. Privately raise capital. Like a private company, it can get funds from selected investors. 2. Invite public. Issue shares. It can sell shares to the public for capital. Legal requirement, Section 70. A public company must follow one of these 2 steps. 1. Issue a prospectus. If it wants the public to invest, it must publish a document with full details of the company. 2. Statement in lieu of prospectus. If the company raises capital privately, it must submit this statement 3 days before share allotment. Example: private company. A startup gets funds from founders, friends, and family. Public company. TCS issues a prospectus to invite people to buy shares. Short trick to remember: FIP, float invest public. F, flotation, raising capital. I. Investment sources, private public. P. Prospectus requirement, legal steps. Final trick word, flip. Think of flipping a company from private to public by raising capital. Commencement stage, simple explanation. What is the commencement stage? Once a company is registered, it needs approval to start business. Private company can start business immediately after getting the certificate of incorporation. Public company cannot start business immediately. It must get a certificate to commence business from the registrar. Steps for a public company to get approval. Documents to be submitted. 1. Prospectus or statement in lieu of prospectus. If the company invites the public to buy shares, it must file a prospectus. If the company raises capital privately, it must file a statement in lieu of prospectus. Not required for private companies. 2. Minimum subscription. The company must receive a minimum amount of money from investors before allotting shares. Ensures shareholders' interests are protected. 3. Qualification shares. Directors must buy some shares before becoming directors. This ensures directors are also shareholders and invested in the company. 4. Return of allotment. A list of shareholders, names, addresses, and shares owned must be submitted. Stock exchange permission. The company must declare that its shares can be traded on a recognized stock exchange. 6. Statutory declaration. A director, secretary, or advocate must submit a declaration that all legal formalities are completed. Final step, getting the certificate. Registrar will check all documents. If satisfied, will issue certificate to commence business. From that date, the public company can start operations. Example, private company, a small IT firm, starts immediately after registration. Public company, Tata Motors waits for approval before selling shares to the public. Short trick to remember, PQRSD. P. Qualification shares. R. Return of allotment. S. Subscription, minimum. D. Declaration. Final trick word, square. Think of a company standing strong like a square after completing these steps. Certificate of Commencement of Business, simple explanation. What is the Certificate of Commencement of Business? It is an official approval given to a public company by the Registrar of Companies after checking that all legal formalities have been completed. Without this certificate, a public company cannot start business. Key points to remember. Issued to public companies only. Private companies can start business immediately after incorporation. Public companies must get this certificate before starting operations. 2. Legal requirement, Section 149. The company must file a declaration that it has completed all legal formalities. This declaration is checked by the Registrar of Companies. 3. Format of the certificate. It includes the company name, date of incorporation, and confirmation that all legal steps are done. It is signed by the Registrar of Companies with a seal. 4. Effective certificate. Once issued, the company can start business, enter contracts, and raise capital. Without this certificate, any business activity is illegal. Example, Tata Motors Limited cannot sell shares or start production until it gets the Certificate of Commencement of Business. XYZP starts its software services immediately after registration. No need for this certificate. Short trick to remember. P. Public companies only. I. Issued by registrar. C. Compulsory before business start. Final trick word, pick. Imagine taking a pic of your certificate once received. Register of Companies, simple explanation. What is the Register of Companies? It is a collection of important records that every company must maintain as per company laws. These records help in tracking members, shares, directors, financial transactions, and legal filings. Types of registers and files. 1. Statutory books, mandatory. Every company must maintain these at its registered office. Important records include register of members, who owns how many shares, register of debenture holders, who gave loans to the company, register of directors and secretaries, list of company officials, minute books, records of official meetings, register of charges, details of loans and security given. 2. Optional registers, not mandatory. Additional records for better management. Examples: register of share transfers, who sold bought shares, director's attendance book, who attended board meetings, register of share warrants, share certificates issued. 3. Company files, document storage. Companies also maintain various official files related to business and legal matters. Examples: stock exchange file for listed companies, share certificates and transfer deeds, notices and meeting agendas, annual reports and auditors' correspondence. Example: imagine a school register where student details, name, roll number, marks, attendance are recorded. Similarly, companies maintain these registers to track their owners, financial dealings, and legal activities. Short trick to remember: SUF, statutory books. Optional registers. Files, document storage. Final trick word: think of maintaining soft records for a company's smooth functioning. Company documents, simple explanation. What are company documents? These are legal papers, required to register a company. Without these, a company cannot be legally formed. Primary company documents. 1. Memorandum of Association, MOA. It defines the company's name, purpose, location, and powers. Example: a school's rule book stating its name, location, and subjects it can teach. 2. Articles of Association, AOA. It contains rules on how the company will be run. Example: like a school timetable explaining class timings, holidays, and rules for students. 3. Prospectus. A document used by public companies to invite people to invest money. Example: like a college brochure that attracts students by showing courses, fees, and facilities. Example: imagine you are starting a cricket club. Defines the club name, purpose, playing cricket, and location. AOA, rules for joining, team selection, and matches. Prospectus, a pamphlet inviting people to invest in the club. SHAT, short trick to remember. MAP. M, memorandum of a company's purpose. A, articles of association, rules for running the company. Prospectus, inviting public investment. Final trick word: MAP. Think of it as guiding a company's formation. Memorandum of Association, MOA. Simple is MOA. MOA is the birth certificate of a company. It defines what the company can do, where it can operate, what risks investors should know before investing. Why is MOA important? For investors, helps them understand the company's purpose and risks before investing. For business deals, tells others what the company is allowed to do legally. Definitions simplified. Companies Act 2013. MOA is the official document that sets company rules. It can be changed if needed. Lord Keynes' view: MOA is like a rule book for the company. It sets boundaries on what it can and cannot do. Lord Macmillan's view: MOA is the foundation of a company. The entire business structure is built on it. Key features of MOA: defines company's purpose, legal boundary, company cannot do anything outside MOA, signed by original members. Private company needs at least 2 members. Public company needs at least 7 members. Think of MOA as a recipe book for a restaurant. It tells what dishes can be served, where the restaurant is located, how many customers it can handle at once. Investors, like chefs, know what they're getting into. Short trick to remember: focus. Foundation. MOA is the base of the company. O, original members, 2 for private, 7 for public. C, charter of the company, defines limits. U, understanding risks, for investors. S, Scope of business, what the company can do. Final trick word, focus. MOA helps focus on company rules and limits. Memorandum of Association, simplified explanation. What is MOA? MOA is like the rule book of a company. It defines what the company can do, what the business purpose is, what investors need to know before investing. Why is MOA important? For investors, helps them understand the company's purpose and risks before investing. For business partners, shows what the company is legally allowed to do. Key definitions, simple terms. Companies Act 2013, Section 56. MOA is a legal document that defines company rules. It can be updated as per law. Lord Kane's view. MOA is like a constitution that sets boundaries for what a company can do. Lord Macmillan's view. MOA is the foundation of a company, just like a strong base is needed for a building. Important features of MOA. Defines company's purpose clearly. Legal boundaries. A company cannot do anything outside MOA. Signed by original members. Private company needs at least 2 members. Public company needs at least 7 members. Example. Think of MOA as a school rulebook. It tells what subjects can be taught, what activities are allowed, where the school is located. Students, investors know what they are joining. Short trick to remember. Scope. S. Scope of business, what the company can do. It's company's legal foundation. O. Original members. 2 for private, 7 for public. P. Permission. Defines company limits. E. Essential document for company formation. Final trick word. Scope. MOA defines the scope of a company. Importance of Memorandum of Association, MOA. Simple explanation. What is MOA? MOA is the backbone of a company. It tells what the company can do, where it can operate, who is responsible, liability of members. Why is MOA important? 1. Basic conditions. Company's rulebook. It defines the purpose and rules of the company, specifies location, scope of work, and member liability, limited or unlimited. Think of it like school rules. Students must follow them. How? Unalterable charter, hard to change. MOA is a permanent document, can only be changed with court or government approval, which is a long process. Example, a restaurant registered to sell food can't start selling cars unless the MOA allows it. 3. Public document, anyone can check. MOA is stored at the Registrar of Companies. Any investor or outsider can check it before dealing with the company. Example, if a bank wants to give a loan, it checks the MOA to ensure the business is legal. 4. Base of incorporation, company's birth certificate. A company can't be formed without an MOA. At least 2 members for a private company and 7 members for a public company must sign it. 5. Guide to directors. Tells directors what to do. Directors must follow MOA rules while making decisions. Example, if the MOA says the company can manufacture clothes, directors can't start a hotel. Short trick to remember. Bug PGB. Basic conditions, rules and scope. U. Unalterable charter, hard to change. Guide to directors. P. Public document, anyone can check. G. Base of incorporation, needed to start a company. Final trick word, Bug PG. MOA is the guiding document for a company. Clauses of Memorandum of Association, MOA, simple explanation. What is MOA? MOA is like a rule book for a company. It tells what a company can do and how it should operate. Important clauses of MOA. 1. Name clause. Identity of the company. The company's name is mentioned in this clause. Rules for selecting a name. Avoid similar names. Can't be too close to another company's name. Misleading names. No false or deceptive names. Use limited or private limited at the end of the name. Some words require to revive cur capital, e.g. corporation. Example, if Tata Motors exists, a new company can't be named Tata Automobiles. 2. Domicile clause. Company's registered office. Every company must have a registered office for official communication. The address must be notified to the registrar within 30 days of incorporation. Penalty. 50 per day if not updated. Example, like a home address where all posts and letters arrive. What 3 objects clause? What the company can do. Defines what business activities the company can perform. Activities not mentioned here can't be done, called ultra-vires. Divided into 3 types. Main objects, core business activities. Incidental objects, extra activities supporting main business. Other objects, additional activities company may do in the future. Example, a food delivery app can't start a real estate business if not mentioned in MOA. 4. Liability clause. Defines member responsibility. Members' liability is limited to the face value of their shares. Directors can have unlimited liability if mentioned. Example, if a shareholder owns 10,000 shares, he can only lose that much, even if the company has bigger losses. 5. Capital clause. Total share capital of the company. Specifies how much capital the company is starting with. Divides capital into equity and preference shares. Example, if a company starts with 10 lakh capital, it may be divided into 10,000 shares of 100 each. 6. Association clause. Members agree to form the company. Original members sign to agree to form the company. Mentions names and addresses of members, number of shares they hold, witness signatures. Example, like a group of friends starting a business together and signing an agreement. Short trick to remember, not LCA. Aim clause. Company identity. O. Objects clause. Business activities. Domicile clause. Register. Liability clause. Member responsibility. C. Capital clause. Total shares. A. Association clause. Members agreement. Final trick word, NODI LCA. MOA defines the NOD rules and LCA foundation of a company. Alteration of Memorandum of Association, MOA. Simple explanation. What is MOA alteration? MOA is like a company's constitution, and alteration means changing its details legally. But changes must follow strict rules and require approval from shareholders, government, and creditors. Key rules for changing MOA. General rule. Special resolution required. A company can alter its MOA by passing a special resolution in a shareholder meeting. Some changes also need central government approval. Example, changing a company's business purpose needs shareholder approval first. 2. Name change needs approval. Approval needed from the central government, except when converting a private limited to public limited, or vice versa. The Registrar of Companies, ROC, updates the records and issues a new certificate of incorporation. Example, if ABC PVT Limited changes to ABC Limited, no special approval is needed. 3. Changing registered office address. State change needs approval. Within the same city, no approval required. Moving to another state? Central government approval required. Proof that all creditors and debenture holders agree. Time limit. Government must decide within 60 days. Example, if XYZ Limited moves from Mumbai to Bangalore, it needs government approval. 4. Change in business objects. Strict rules. If a company raises money from the public, it cannot change its business purpose unless a special resolution is passed. Published in newspapers, English local language. Displayed on the company website. Dissenting opposing shareholders should have a chance to exit. Example, a food delivery company that raised public money cannot suddenly start a real estate business without following this process. 5. Registrar's role, approval and certification. All changes must be submitted to the registrar with documents. Registrar must approve and certify the changes within 30 days. No changes are valid until registered officially. Example, a company can't start new operations until the ROC registers the updated MOA. 6. Profit sharing clause for guarantee companies. If a company limited by guarantee, no shares, tries to give profit rights to non-members, it is void. Example, a charity organization cannot change its MOA to start distributing profits to outsiders. Short trick to remember NAR. Needs approval. Address change. State change needs GovTID approval. MOA alteration rule, special resolution required. O, objects clause change, strict rules. P, public money rule, dissenting shareholders get exit option. R, changes valid only after certification. Final trick word, NAMO. NAMOPAR reminds us that MOA changes need proper registration. Doctrine of ultravires. Simple explanation. What is ultravires? Ultrund, vires equals powers. So ultravires equals beyond powers. If a company does something outside its allowed powers, as mentioned in the Memorandum of Association, it is called ultravires. Key points to remember. 1. Ultravires equals illegal for the company. If a company does something not mentioned in its MOA, it is invalid, even if shareholders agree. Purpose: protect investors and creditors from misuse of company funds. Example, a real estate company cannot start a restaurant unless it's mentioned in its MOA. 2. Cannot be ratified, no fixing later. Even if all shareholders agree, an ultravires act cannot be made legal later. Once ultravires, always ultravires. Example, if a textile company invests in a movie production, not mentioned in MOA, the decision cannot be corrected later. 3. Void ab initio equals invalid from start. Ultravires acts are void from the beginning, like they never happened. No legal effect on the company. Example, if a company takes a loan for an activity not mentioned in MOA, the company is not liable to repay it. 4. Protects investors and creditors. Ensures company funds are used properly for what was promised in MOA. Prevents misuse of money for unrelated activities. Example, if a company raises money for software development but spends it on a hotel business, investors and creditors are protected. Short trick to remember, UVPR. U, ultravires, illegal. Invalid from the start. Protects investors and creditors. R, ratification not possible, cannot be corrected later. Final trick word, UVPR. Think of ultravires protection rule, it protects investors and creditors. Articles of Association, simple explanation. What is AOA? AOA equals rulebook for the company's internal management. It defines how the company will operate, including duties and rights of directors, powers of management, how business activities will be carried out. 1. AOA equals internal rules. It acts as the constitution for managing a company. Covers day-to-day operations and decision-making. Example, AOA may state that a CEO can approve up to 10 lakh, but anything more needs board approval. Link to Memorandum of Association, MOA. MOA equals what a company can do, its objectives. AOA, how a company will do it, internal rules. Example, if MOA allows online sales, AOA may specify which platforms to use and how payments are processed. Who needs their own AOA? Some companies must have their own AOA. Unlimited companies, companies limited by guarantee, private companies limited by shares. Public companies can adopt Table A, default AOA, if they don't create their own. 4. Entrenchment clause, stronger protection for rules. Some AOA rules cannot be changed easily. Need extra conditions beyond a normal special resolution. Example, AOA may state that CEO can only be removed with 90% shareholder approval. 5. Registrar's role. AOA must be properly stamped, signed, and attested. If a company makes a change to AOA, it must inform the registrar. Short trick to remember, AIR. AOA equals internal rules, defines how company operates. I. Internal management covers directors' decision-making. R. Registrar notified. Changes must be reported. Final trick word. Think of AOA as the air inside a company. It controls the internal flow and management. Clauses of Articles of Association. Simple explanation. What is AOA? AOA is like a rule book for a company's internal working. It explains how decisions are made, shares are handled, and directors work. Key clauses to remember. 1. Constitution Clause. Defines under which law AOA is created. Example, private companies follow Table A of the Companies Act, 1956. Interpretation Clause. Explains meanings of important terms in AOA. If a company wants a different meaning from the Companies Act, it must be mentioned here. 3. Private Company Clause. Only for private companies, not for public companies. Includes max 50 members, no public invitation for shares, no public deposits accepted. Example, a startup registered as XYZ PVT Ltd must follow these rules. 4. Share Capital Clause. Defines how many shares the company can issue, how shares are bought back or transferred, issuance of share certificates to owners. Example, AOA may say shares can only be transferred with board approval. Rules and regulations. AOA sets rules for running the company, including meetings and quorum, how many people must attend for decisions, first directors, duties and powers of directors, borrowing powers, how much company can take as a loan, accounts and audits, financial records and checking them, secrecy policy, winding up rules, how the company will close if needed. Company seal. Defines where and how the company's seal will be used. Example, the seal must be used only for official documents like contracts and certificates. 7. Subscription page. The last page where founders sign with name, father's name, address, PIN code, occupation, signature. Example, before registering the company, all founders must sign on this page. Short trick to remember. SIPS rules C, Constitution Clause, under which law AOA is made. Interpretation, meaning of key terms. P, Private Company Clause. Special rules for PVD. S, Share Capital Clause, how shares are handled. R, rules and regulations, meetings, directors, secrecy, etc. U, usage of company seal, who can use it. L, last page, subscription page. Founders sign here. E, extra rules, any additional company-specific rules. S, secrecy and winding up, confidentiality and closure rules. Final trick word. C, think of AOA as rules for running a company smoothly. Alteration of Articles of Association. Simple explanation. What is alteration of AOA? AOA can be changed by the company, but it must follow certain rules. Changes in AOA can even change the company type. Key points to remember. 1. Special resolution required. A company must pass a special resolution to change AOA. Example, a private company wants to become a public company. It needs to change its AOA. 2. Conversion between company types. Private, public. A private company removes restrictions, like a max of 50 members, no public shares, and becomes public. Public, private, needs approval from the tribunal before becoming private. Example, if ABC PVT Ltd wants to be ABC Ltd, they must change AOA and remove restrictions. Filing with the registrar. After changing AOA, the company must submit the updated document to the Registrar of Companies, ROC, within 15 days. It must also include tribunal approval if converting public to private. Validity of changes. Once registered, the new AOA is legally valid and treated as if it was always like that. Short tree. Special resolution needed for any change, conversion, private-public or public-private, filing, send updated AOA to Roxy in 15 days. V. Validity. Once registered, changes are official. Final trick word, SCFV. Think of it as some changes feel valid. Of Articles of Association, AOA, simplified. What is AOA alteration? A company changes its AOA, rules and regulations, by following a step-by-step legal process. Key steps to remember. 1. Board meeting. Call a meeting, 7 days notice. Pass a resolution to alter AOA. Decide date and time for the general meeting. Notice for general meeting. Send a written notice 21 days before to directors, members, auditors. General meeting. Check quorum, minimum members required. Ensure auditor is present, or grant leave of absence. Pass a special resolution, Section 114. Get approval for changes. Filing with registrar. Submit Form MGT 14 within 30 days to RAC. Include certified copy of special resolution. Notice sent to members. Printed copy of altered AOA. Follow-up and approval. ROC registers the alteration and issues a certificate. Changes become official only after getting the certificate. Late filing, additional fees apply. Update all copies of AOA with new changes. Short trick to remember, BNGFF. B. Board meeting. Decide changes. Inform members. General meeting. Pass resolution. F. Filing with RAC. Submit documents. Follow up. Approval and update AOA. Final trick word, bingo F. Think of it as bingo filing done. Articles of Association, simplified. What is AOA registration? When a company is formed, it must register its Articles of Association, AOA, which contains its internal rules. If a company does not submit its own AOA, then Table A, a standard set of rules, is automatically applied. Key points to remember. 1. Who needs to register AOA? Public company limited by shares. Can choose to register its own AOA or adopt Table A. Private company limited by shares. Must register its own AOA. Company limited by guarantee and unlimited company. Must register its own AOA. 2. 3 ways to register AOA. Full adoption of Table A. Use all default rules. Partial adoption. Use some default rules, company's own rules. Full customization. Create a completely new AOA. Small companies prefer partial adoption to save printing costs and ensure clarity in legal terms. 3 rules for AOA registration. Printed document, divided into numbered paragraphs, signed by subscribers, in front of a witness, properly stamped and filed with the memorandum. Short trick to remember, FPSN. Full or partial adoption, Table A or own rules. Printing rules, printed and numbered paragraphs. Signature and stamp, signed by subscriber's witness. N, need for filing, final trick word, fast. Think register AOA fast. Effective Memorandum and Articles, Section 10, simplified. What does this mean? Once a company registers its Memorandum of Association, MOA, and Articles of Association, AOA, these documents become legally binding for the company, the members, shareholders. Key points to remember. 1. MOA and AOA equals legal agreement. These documents act as a contract between the company and its members. It's like a rule book that both must follow. Example: if a company's AOA says dividends will be paid yearly, the company must follow this rule. 2. Members must follow rules. Every shareholder must obey the MOA and AOA. Company must also follow the MOA and AOA rules. Example: if a shareholder is required to pay 10,000 for shares, they cannot refuse, as it's a legal obligation. Members owe money to company. Any money a member owes to the company, as per MOA AOA, is a legal debt. The company can legally recover it. Example: if the company calls for 500 per share, a shareholder must pay it. Short trick to remember, BOD, binding contract, MOA and AOA equals agreement. Obligation to follow. Company and members must follow rules. D. Debt to company. Members must pay as per rules. Final trick word, bond. Think. MOA and AOA create a legal bond. Difference between MOA and AOA simplified. AOA. What are Memorandum of Association? The foundation document of a company. It defines the company's main purpose, powers, and limitations. AOA, Articles of Association, the rule book for how the company will be managed internally. Key differences. Basis, MOA, Articles of Association, must be prepared by every company. Status, acts like a charter constitution of the company, acts like a rule book for internal management. Necessity, must be prepared by every company. Optional, public company can use Table A. Scope, defines company's purpose and powers, defines rules for day-to-day operations. Purpose, shows why the company exists, explains how the company operates. Alteration, hard to change, needs government approval, can be changed easily by special resolution. Legal power, MO Companies Act, AOA, MOA, and Companies Act, it must follow both. Relationship, company, outsiders, company, shareholders. Legal effect, any action beyond MOA is illegal, ultravires. Actions beyond AOA are irregular but can be corrected. Dependency, depends on company law, depends on primacy. MOA is the highest authority. AOA must follow to understand easily. MOA equals a school's admission policy. Defines what classes the school offers. AOA equals school rules. Defines how students must behave in school. A school cannot admit students in a class that doesn't exist in its admission policy, MOA, but it can change the school rules, AOA, easily with approval. Hash, short trick to remember, smart law. Status, charter versus rulebook. M, mandatory, MOA is must, AOA is optional. A, alteration, MOA is rigid, AOA is flexible. R, relation, MOA equals outsiders, AOA equals members. T, table A, AOA can follow table A. L, legal power, MOA, acts beyond MOA equals illegal. Working rules, AOA equal daily operations. Final trick word, smart law. MOA and AOA make a company legally smart. Prospectus, explained simply. What is a prospectus? A prospectus is a legal document that a company issues to the public when it wants people to buy its shares or debentures, loan-like investment. It is not just an advertisement. It can be a notice, circular, or official invitation for investment. 2 key conditions. A document is called a prospectus only if 1. It invites people to buy shares, debentures, or deposit money into the company. 2. The invitation is made to the general public, not just a private group. Example to understand easily. Imagine company ABC Limited wants to raise 100 crore by selling shares. It creates a prospectus explaining company details, business plans, how much money is needed, how people can buy shares. This prospectus is published in newspapers, company websites, or sent to potential investors so the public can decide whether to invest. Short trick to remember. Public invitation, not private. I, investment in shares debentures. Essential for raising funds. Final trick word, pie. A company. A company uses a prospectus to share a pie of its business with the public. Prospectus, explained simply. A prospectus is like a brochure that gives detailed information about a company before it raises money from the public. It helps investors decide whether to invest. Key contents of a prospectus. 1. Company overview and future plans. Brief history, when and why company started. Main objectives, why the company exists. Factory location. Products, machinery, and raw materials. Market demand and growth potential. 2. Capital structure. How many shares are available? Types of shares, authorized, issued, subscribed, paid up. Who can buy, residents and non-residents. 3. Management team. Details of promoters, directors, CEO, managers. their experience and background. 4. Project details. Cost of the project. How it will be funded. Loans, investors, own money, location and utilities, water, electricity, etc. 5. Financial information. Auditor's report, financial health check, assets and liabilities, estimated cost of the project. 6. General rules and regulations. How the CEO and directors are appointed. Powers of directors. Voting rights. Share transfer rules. 7. Commission and tax benefits. Brokerage and commission, fees paid to bankers. Tax exemptions for investors and company. Import duty exemption if applicable. 8. Board of directors. Names, addresses, and occupations of directors. 9. Directors' benefits and salary. How much salary and bonuses directors get. Other benefits. Directors enjoy miscellaneous information, company's registered office and factory location, bankers, legal advisors, consultants. Example to understand easily. Imagine Tesla wants to raise 5,000 crore from the public. It will release a prospectus explaining Tesla's history and future goals, like new car models. How many shares are available? Who manages Tesla? CEO, financial condition and auditor reports. Any tax benefits for investors? Short trick to remember. C. Company overview and future plans. A. All about capital, shares investment. M. Management team details. P. Project details, reports. Important rules and regulations. N. No tax and commission info. D. Director's details. M. Miscellaneous info. Final trick word, Camp Find MB. Think of it as camping to find money for business. Types of prospectus, explained simply. A prospectus is a legal document that a company issues when it wants to raise money from the public by selling shares. There are different types of prospectuses based on the way shares are offered. Types of prospectus. 1. Offer document. Used in public issues when shares are sold to everyone. Also used in right issues. Existing shareholders get a chance to buy more shares. Filed with Registrar of Companies and Stock Exchanges, helps investors decide whether to invest. 2. Draft offer document. Not final, just a draft before official filing. Sent to SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India, for review. Available on SEBI's website for 21 days for public comments. 3. Red herring prospectus. Does not mention final share price or number of shares. Only price range is given, e.g. 100 to 120 per share. Used for book building issues. Price is decided later based on demand. 4. Abridged prospectus. Short version of a full prospectus. Contains key highlights for quick understanding, attached with the share application form. Shelf prospectus. Used by banks and financial institutions, covers multiple issues of shares over a year. No need to file a new prospectus each time. Shares are issued. Saves time and cost for big institutions. Example to understand easily. Imagine Reliance Industries wants to raise. First, they release a draft offer document for SEBI's review. Then they issue a red herring prospectus, price not fixed. Investors get an abridged prospectus with the share form. If it's a bank, they may use a shelf prospectus to avoid refiling. Short trick to remember, ODRAS. Offer document, main prospectus. D. Draft offer document. R. Red herring prospectus, no fixed price. Abridged prospectus, short version. S. Shelf prospectus, for banks valid for a year. Final trick word, ODRAS. Think of it as offer documents reduce approval stress. Registration of a prospectus, explained simply. A prospectus is an official document that a company must register before offering shares to the public. The Companies Act has specific rules for its registration and penalties if not followed. Key rules for prospectus registration. 1. Must be registered before issue. A company cannot issue a prospectus unless it is first delivered to the Registrar of Companies, ROC, for registration. The registration must be done before the date of publication. 2. Signed by directors. Every director or proposed director of the company must sign the prospectus. A director's authorized agent can also sign. 3. Statement on the face of the prospectus. The prospectus must clearly state that it has been registered with the Registrar of Companies. It should also mention that all necessary documents and expert approvals are attached. 4. Issued within 90 days. The prospectus must be issued within 90 days of its registration. If not issued within this period, it is considered invalid. Penalty for non-registration. If a prospectus is issued without registration or without the required documents and expert approvals, then the company and every responsible person involved will be fined up to $5,000. Example for easy understanding. Imagine Tata Motors wants to sell shares to the public. First, they prepare the prospectus and get it signed by all directors. Then, they submit it to the ROC for registration. After approval, they mention on the prospectus that it is registered. Within 90 days, they issue it to the public. If they skip registration and issue the prospectus, they face a $5,000 fine per person involved. Now, short trick to remember. SERP. S. Signed by directors. Issued within 90 days, registered before issue. P. Penalty for non-registration. Final trick word, spirit. Follow the spirit of the law. Consequences of misstatement in a prospectus. A prospectus must provide true and complete information about the company. If any false, misleading, or missing material facts are found, serious legal consequences follow. These include civil liability, criminal liability, and fraud-related penalties. Civil liability. 1. Compensation. If an investor loses money due to false statements, the company must pay for the loss. 2. Damages for fraud. If someone invests based on fraud, they can sue the company. The investor must return the shares before claiming damages. 3. Rescission of contract. Investors can cancel their contract if the prospectus had false or misleading information. 4. Fine for non-compliance, $50,000. Directors or anyone responsible can be fined if they fail to include all required information. 5. Liability under general law. Those who issue a misleading prospectus can be punished under general law. 6. Penalty for violating Section 57 and 58. $50,000. If a prospectus is issued without expert approval, the company and responsible persons can be fined $50,000. 7. Fine for not registering prospectus. $50,000. If a prospectus is not submitted to the registrar, the company can be fined $50,000. 2. Criminal liability. False statements, jail up to 2 years, or $50,000 fine, or both. 3. Fraudulently inducing investment. If someone intentionally lies to convince people to invest or manipulate stock prices, they can get jail up to 5 years. Fine up to $1,000. Both. Example for easy understanding. Imagine XYZ Limited wants to sell shares but falsely claims their profits are increasing. Investors trust this wrong information and buy shares. Later, they find out the truth and lose money. Consequences. XYZ Limited must pay compensation. Investors can sue for fraud. Company directors can be fined $50,000 or jailed for 2 to 5 years. Short trick to remember. Crime. C. Compensation for loss. R. Rescission of contract. I. Imprisonment for false statements. M. Misleading information. Fine $50,000. E. Expert approval required. Final trick word. Crime. Misstatement in a prospectus is a crime. Defenses against civil liability. If someone is blamed for false statements in a prospectus and asked to pay compensation, they can defend themselves using the following points. 1. Withdrawal of consent before issue. If a director agreed to be part of the company but took back their consent before the prospectus was issued, they are not responsible. Example: a director resigns before the prospectus is released. Since they were not involved, they cannot be blamed. Issued without knowledge. If the director did not know about the prospectus and publicly declared this after finding out, they are not liable. Example: a director is on vacation and the company issues a false prospectus without informing them. If they publicly deny involvement, they can avoid liability. Withdrawal of consent after issue, but before allotment. If a director finds out about a false statement after the prospectus is issued, but before shares are sold, they can withdraw their consent and give a public notice. Example: a director notices false financial data in the prospectus before shares are sold and immediately publishes a public notice rejecting it. They are safe. Reasonable belief. If the director honestly believed that all statements were true at the time of issuing the prospectus, they cannot be blamed. Example: a director relies on financial data checked by auditors and believes it to be true. Later, the data turns out to be false, but since they had no reason to doubt it, they are not liable. Statement by an expert. If a false statement came from an expert, like an auditor or legal advisor, the director can escape liability by proving: 1. The expert's report was copied correctly. 2. They believed the expert was qualified. 3. The expert had agreed to the statement. Example: a company includes a market research report from a professional firm in its prospectus. If the report is later proven wrong, the director is not responsible. 6. Statement from an official document. If the false statement came from a government or official report, the director is not responsible as long as it was copied correctly. Example: a company copies data from a government economic survey into its prospectus. If the data is later found incorrect, the company is not liable. Short trick to remember: wires. Withdrawal before issued without knowledge. Rejection after issue. Expert statement. Reasonable belief. Statement from official document. Final trick word: wires. Like electric wires, these points protect directors from getting shocked by legal troubles. Directors. Who are they? A company is like a robot. It exists in law but has no brain or body to make decisions, so it needs humans to manage and run it. 1. Directors are the decision makers. They plan, manage, and control the company's operations. Example: a school has a principal who takes major decisions. Similarly, directors handle a company's big decisions. 2. Appointed by shareholders. The people who own shares, shareholders, elect directors to represent them. Example: in a cricket team, the captain is chosen by players. Similarly, shareholders choose directors to lead the company. Work as agents of the company. Directors act on behalf of the company. Example: a manager in a restaurant runs the operations on behalf of the owner. Directors do the same for a company. 4. Powers given by legal documents. The company's memorandum and articles of association define their powers. Example: just like rules in a video game control what you can and can't do, these legal documents set rules for directors. 5. Defined by law. According to Section 234 of the Companies Act, 2013, director is someone appointed to the board of a company. Short trick to remember: decision makers. Appointed by shareholders. Directors work as agents. Powers given by legal documents. Law defines them. Final trick word: D. Like a ladder, directors help a company climb to success. Functions of directors. Directors guide and control a company's operations, just like a captain steers a ship. Their main job is to make sure the company runs smoothly and reaches its goals. Key functions. 1. Setting vision and mission. Directors decide what the company wants to achieve, vision, and how it will achieve it, mission. Example: a school's mission is to educate students, and its vision is to create future leaders. 2. Giving strategic direction. Directors help top management with business strategy by giving advice and suggestions. Example, a football coach guides the team's strategy but doesn't play on the field. Monitoring performance. They track progress and ensure the company is on the right path. Example, a teacher monitors students' performance through exams. Evaluating the CEO. Directors assess the CEO's performance and ensure they are leading the company well. Example, a school board reviews the principal's work to ensure the school runs well. 5. Managing human resources. Directors hire and evaluate senior management, top executives. Example, a cricket team selects the right players for success. 6. Building stakeholder relations. Directors connect with employees, investors, and the public to maintain a good reputation. Example, a politician interacts with voters, media, and supporters. 7. Managing risks. They identify threats, financial, legal, operational, and take steps to reduce risks. Example, a driver wears a seatbelt to prevent injuries in an accident. 8. Procuring resources. Directors are money, manpower, technology, and partnerships to help the company grow. Example, a farmer needs seeds, water, and land to grow crops successfully. Short trick to remember, V Smart PM. V, vision and mission. S, strategy and advice. Monitoring performance. A, assessing CEO. R, recruiting talent. Talking to stakeholders. P, preventing risks. Managing resources. Final trick word, smart VP. Directors are like VPs who make smart decisions. Of directors. Directors must meet certain conditions before they can manage a company. Think of it like a job interview. You need the right qualifications to get selected. Key points to remember. 1. Must own shares. A director must own at least 5 shares in the company. Example, just like a cricket team captain must be a player, a director must be a shareholder. 2. Time limit to buy shares. If not already owned, the director must buy these shares within 2 months of appointment. Example, if you join a gym, you must pay fees within a deadline to continue using it. 3. Value of shares. The total value of shares cannot exceed $5,000. Example, like a college admission fee has a limit, directors also have a shareholding limit. 4. No share warrants. Directors must hold actual shares, not share warrants, which are like temporary ownership slips. Example, if you buy a car, you must have actual ownership, not just a rental agreement. 5. Cannot get shares as a gift. Directors must buy shares themselves, not get them as a gift from the company or promoters. Example, a student must earn marks by studying, not get them as a gift. 6. Lose position if shares not bought. If a director doesn't buy the required shares within 2 months, they lose their position automatically. Example, if a player doesn't follow team rules, they get removed from the team. 7. Legal punishment. If a director continues acting without fulfilling the share requirement, they can be punished. Example, driving without a license is illegal and punishable. Nash short trick to remember, stock LP. Shares must be held. Time limit 2 months. O, ownership must be personal. C, cannot exceed 5,000. K, keep real shares, not warrants. L, lose position if not followed. P, punishment if continued illegally. Final trick word, stop LC. Directors must stop ignoring these rules or they'll face legal consequences. Appointment of directors. Directors are appointed in different ways, just like a company hires employees through different processes. Key points to remember. First directors. The first directors are mentioned in the Articles of Association. If not mentioned, the subscribers, founders of the company become directors. If all subscribers are corporate bodies, they cannot be directors until officially appointed. Example, when a new house is built, the first residents are its owners unless someone else is assigned. 2. By company, 1/3 of directors retire every year and new ones are appointed. Retiring directors can be reappointed or replaced. If a director's position is not filled, they continue unless rejected. New directors must give 14 days notice and deposit 500, refunded if selected. Example, a school's student council members retire and new elections happen annually. 3. By board of directors. Additional directors, temporary until next AGM. Casual vacancy, replaces a director who left before term completion. Alternate director, temporary replacement if a director is absent for 3+ months. Example, if a team captain is injured, a temporary captain takes charge. 4. By third parties. If lenders, banks, financial institutions provide loans, they can appoint their own directors. These directors do not retire by rotation. Example, a bank that gives a big loan to a business may appoint its own advisor to ensure money is used properly. By proportional representation. At least 2/3 of directors are appointed based on voting methods like single transferable vote or cumulative voting. Happens every 3 years. Example, just like political parties get seats based on votes, can appoint directors based on shareholder voting power. 6. By central government, if needed to protect company, shareholders, or public interest, the government appoints directors. Term cannot exceed 3 years. Example, if a company is in financial trouble, the government may appoint an expert to manage it. Short trick to remember, firm G. F, first directors I, in general meeting by company. R, by board of directors, replacement types. M, by moneylenders. G, government appointment. C, cumulative voting, proportional representation. Final trick word, FICOM, directors fake chief for positions, and companies use different combinations to appoint them. Powers of directors. Directors control and manage a company, just like a captain steers a ship. Their powers come from different sources and must be used within legal limits. Key points to remember. Where directors get their power from. Companies Act, legal rules. Articles of Association, company's internal rules. Board resolutions, decisions made by directors in meetings. General meeting resolutions, decisions by shareholders. Contracts and agreements, legal business deals. Example, a school principal's authority comes from government rules, school policies, board decisions, and agreements with staff. 2. What can directors do? Directors have all powers a company has, except those that require shareholder approval. Example, a manager can make daily decisions, but big company policies need owner approval. 3. Important decisions directors must take in meetings. Call money from shareholders if they haven't paid fully for shares. Issue debentures, borrowing money from the public. Take loans from banks or others apart from debentures. Invest company funds, buying stocks, property, etc. Give loans to others. Example, a CEO cannot take 100 crore loan alone. The board must approve it first. 4. Directors can delegate some powers. Directors can assign powers to other directors through a committee, managing director, manager, or senior officers. But there must be clear limits on how much money can be borrowed, how much money can be invested, how much money can be loaned out. Example, a hospital CEO can delegate small purchases, like medicines, to staff, but not allow them to buy a new building. Short trick to remember, bid C, beat borrow money, I, invest funds, D, delegate powers, C, call money from shareholders. Final trick word, BICD, big directors make big decisions and capitalize on opportunities. Duties of directors. Directors manage a company's interests, just like parents take care of a child. Their duties are divided into statutory duties, legal duties, and general duties, ethical responsibilities. Key points to remember. 1. Statutory duties, legal responsibilities, these are compulsory duties set by law. File return of allotments. If shares are given to investors, directors must inform the registrar within 30 days. If not, $500 fine per day. No irredeemable preference shares. Shares must be redeemable within 10 years, Section 80. If violated, $1,000 fine. Disclose personal interest. Directors must reveal if they have a personal stake in any company deal. Example: if a director's brother owns a supplier company, they must declare it before approving contracts. Disclose money from sale of company property. If directors receive money from selling company assets, they must inform shareholders. Otherwise, the amount belongs to the company. Disclose compensation from selling shares. If directors receive extra money from share buyers, it must be approved by shareholders. If not approved, money must be returned to shareholders. General duties, ethical responsibilities. These are expected duties for directors to run the company fairly and responsibly. Act in good faith. Work for the company's benefit, not personal profit. No secret earnings from company deals. Be careful and diligent. Directors must make smart decisions based on their skills. More responsibility equals more care required. Example: a CEO should study financial reports carefully before making a big investment. Attend board meetings. Must not miss 3 meetings in a row. If absent for 3 months, they lose their position. Cannot delegate tasks. Directors must do their job personally, not pass it to someone else. Can delegate only if allowed by the Company Act, the company's rules. Business needs. Short trick to remember. Find C. F. File return of shares. I. Interest disclosure. N. No irredeemable shares. D. Duty of care in meetings. C. Compensation disclosure. Final trick word. Find C. Find code. Directors must find the right code of conduct to run a company properly. Liabilities of directors. Directors are responsible for managing a company, but if they make mistakes, act dishonestly, or break rules, they can be held liable in different ways. Key points to remember. 1. Liability to third parties, outsiders. This happens when directors make mistakes that affect outsiders, investors, creditors, etc. Wrong prospectus. If a prospectus, investment document, has false or missing information, directors are responsible. Failure to return money. If shares are not fully subscribed or stock exchange approval is denied, directors must return investors' money. Personal liability. Signing without company name. If directors sign contracts without mentioning the company's name, they can be personally sued. Example: signing a check as John Doe instead of John Doe, director of XYZ Ltd. Makes John personally responsible. 2. Liability to the company. This happens when directors harm the company through their actions. Breach of trust, dishonesty. Directors must act for the company's benefit, not personal gain. Example: giving interest-free loans to friends using company funds. Ultravirus acts beyond authority. Directors must follow company rules, memorandum and articles. Example: if they pay dividends from company capital instead of profits, they must repay the money. Negligence. Directors must act carefully. If they cause financial loss due to carelessness, they are liable. But honest mistakes, bad judgment, are not considered negligence. Misfeasance, misconduct. If directors steal or misuse company money property, the court can order them to return it. 3. Liability for breaking company law, statutory duties. Directors must maintain accounts, file returns, and follow legal procedures. If they fail, they must pay fines or face legal action. 4. Liability for other directors' actions. A director is not responsible for another director's wrongdoing unless they were involved. Example: if one director secretly steals money, others won't be liable unless they knew about it. Short trick to remember: bump, BIC, breach of trust. U, ultra-vires acts, misfeasance. Prospectus and public liability. Final trick word, bump fix. If directors bump into legal troubles, they need to fix them quickly. Winding up of companies. Winding up means closing a company permanently by selling its assets, paying debts, and distributing any remaining money to the owners. Key points to remember. 1. Meaning of winding up. The process of legally closing a company. Assets are sold, debts are cleared, and remaining money is given to shareholders. Example: if a restaurant business is shutting down, it will sell kitchen equipment, pay workers and rent, and distribute remaining cash to owners. Difference between winding up and dissolution. Winding up is a process. It starts when the court or company itself decides to close. Dissolution is the final step. The company's name is removed from the official records. The company exists during winding up, can still be sued, but ceases to exist after dissolution. Steps in winding up. 1. Order is passed to wind up the company. 2. Assets are sold to get cash. 3. Debts are paid to creditors. 4. Remaining money is given to shareholders. Company name is removed from government records. Dissolution. Short trick to remember. Road. R. Realization of assets. O. Order for winding up. D. Dissolution. Final trick word. Road end. Winding up is like reaching the end of the road for a company. Modes of winding up of a company. Winding up means closing down a company legally. There are 3 ways a company can wind up. 1. Compulsory winding up by court NCLT. The National Company Law Tribunal, NCLT, orders the company to shut down. Happens when the company breaks laws, commits fraud, or can't pay debts. Example: if a company cheats investors, the court can order to close it. Voluntary winding up by choice. The company decides to close on its own without court interference. 2 types. Members' voluntary winding up, done when the company is profitable but owners want to close it. Creditors' voluntary winding up happens when the company can't pay debts and creditors agree to shut it down. Example: a startup that isn't making profits chooses to close voluntarily rather than go bankrupt. 3. Winding up under court supervision. The company decides to wind up voluntarily, but needs NCLT's supervision. Used when there is doubt of fraud or disputes. Example: if a company wants to close but some creditors doubt fairness, the court supervises the process. Short trick to remember. CVS. Compulsory winding up. Voluntary winding up by members or creditors. Supervised winding up under court's eye. Final trick word. Think of close company, yes, different winding up modes. Grounds for compulsory winding up by court. A company can be forced to shut down by the National Company Law Tribunal, NCLT, if certain legal conditions are met. 1. Special resolution. Members of the company agree to shut it down by passing a special resolution in a meeting. Example: a business that is no longer profitable decides to close by mutual agreement. Default in filing reports. If a public company fails to submit its statutory report or does not hold its statutory meeting, the court can order closure. Example: a company skips its required annual financial report submission. Failure to start business. If a company does not start operations within 1 year of registration or stops business for a whole year, it can be shut down. Example: a company registers but never starts working due to delays in licensing. 4. Not enough members. A public company must have at least 7 members, and a private company must have at least 2. If the number falls below this, it can be wound up. Example: if a company has only 1 member left, it cannot legally exist. JAS 5. Inability to pay debts. If a company can't repay its debts, 500 or more, even after a legal notice within 3 weeks, it can be forced to shut down. Example, a company borrows money but fails to repay despite multiple reminders. 6. Default in filing financial statements. If a company fails to submit its profit and loss account and balance sheet, it can face winding up. Example, a company avoids filing its financial reports to hide losses. 7. Acting against India's sovereignty. If a company goes against the laws of India, such as supporting anti-national activities, it can be shut down. Example, a company is caught funding illegal activities. 8. Sick industrial company. If a company suffers extreme financial losses and is declared sick, the court can shut it down. Example, a factory that can't pay salaries or operate due to continuous losses. 9. Just and equitable grounds. If the court finds it fair and reasonable to close a company, it can order winding up. Common reasons: loss of purpose, internal conflicts in management, minority shareholder oppression, fraud, fake company. A company cheats investors or is set up only for fraud. Short trick to remember: S-Fine JS, special resolution filing default reports and accounts. I, inability to pay debts. N, not enough members. D, didn't start business. J, just and equitable reasons. Sick industrial company. Final trick word, fine. Think of fine justice. The court finds reasons to shut down a company. Powers of liquidators in court-ordered winding up. A liquidator is a person appointed to manage the closure of a company. They sell assets, pay debts, and complete legal formalities. Their powers are divided into 2 categories. 1. Powers with court's permission. The liquidator needs approval from the court before using these powers. File legal cases, civil, criminal, continue business if needed. Sell company's assets. Take loans using company assets as security. Do other necessary work to wind up the company. Example, if the company has pending lawsuits, the liquidator can continue them, but only with the court's approval. 2. Powers without court's permission. The liquidator can directly do these activities without asking the court. Sign documents on behalf of the company. Use company's seal for official paperwork. Check company records at the registrar's office. Claim money from defaulters. Sign bills and promissory notes for transactions. Recover money from dead members if they owe money. Appoint an agent to help with tasks. Example, if the company has money stuck with a supplier, the liquidator can recover it without waiting for court approval. Short trick to remember: B. Sale Ray. B. Borrow money, sell property, appoint agent. L. Legal cases, file and continue. E. Execute documents. R. Records check, registrar, assets, and money recovery. Final trick word, sale RA. Think of a liquidator handling a sale and recovering assets. Voluntary winding up of a company. Voluntary winding up means closing the company without the court's involvement. The members, owners, lenders handle the process themselves. Key idea: no need for court intervention, but the court can guide if needed. When can a company be voluntarily wound up? Ordinary resolution. Common situations: if the company was set up for a fixed time and that time is over. If the company was supposed to close after a certain event, as mentioned in the Articles of Association. Special resolution. Other cases, when members decide to close the company voluntarily for any other reason. Once the resolution is passed, the company must announce it in newspapers and the official gazette within 14 days. Important: the company stops doing business after passing the resolution, except for activities related to closing down, like selling assets, clearing debts. Example for better understanding: imagine a coaching center. Started for 5 years. After 5 years, its purpose is completed. Since the time limit was fixed, members decide to wind up voluntarily. A business formed for an event closes after the event ends. If it was already mentioned in the company rules, articles of association, voluntary winding up applies. Short trick to remember. Close. Company's time expired. Ordinary legal announcement. O. Official resolution passed. S. Special resolution for other cases. E. End of business activities. Types of voluntary winding up. When a company decides to close without court involvement, it can happen in two ways. One, members' voluntary winding up by owners. The company is solvent, can pay its debts. Owners, member shareholders, decide to close it. A declaration is made that the company can pay all debts within 12 months. A liquidator is appointed to sell assets and clear dues. Example: a family-owned business decides to retire and close the company as they have made enough profits and don't want to continue. 2. Creditors' voluntary winding up by lenders. The company is insolvent, can't pay debts. Creditors' lenders take control because they need to recover their money. A meeting is held with creditors and a liquidator is appointed. Creditors get paid from whatever assets remain. Example: a startup took a big loan, but sales dropped and it can't repay. Creditors force the company to sell assets and shut down. A short trick to remember. M. Members' voluntary winding up, owners close the company. C. Creditors' voluntary winding up, lenders take control. This way, you can easily recall M members and C creditors for winding up types. Members' voluntary winding up, MVWU. This happens when a company is financially healthy, solvent, but wants to close down voluntarily. The owners, members, take responsibility for clearing debts and shutting operations. Steps in members' voluntary winding up. 1. Appointment of liquidator. A liquidator is appointed to sell assets, settle debts, and close operations. 2. Board's power ends, Section 491. Once winding up starts, the board of directors loses control and the liquidator takes charge. 3. Vacancy in liquidator position. If the liquidator leaves or resigns, a new one is appointed. 4. Registrar notification, Section 493. The company must inform the registrar about the liquidator's appointment. 5. Sale of company assets, Section 494. The liquidator can accept shares or money in exchange for company property. 6. Calling creditors meeting, Section 495. Even though it is a member's winding up, the liquidator must inform creditors about the process. 7. Annual General Meeting, AGM, Section 496. If winding up takes time, meetings are held each year to update members. 8. Final meeting and dissolution. Once all debts are paid, a final meeting is held and the company is officially dissolved. Short trick to remember, LBNR SAFD. L. Liquidator appointment. B. Board's power ends. New liquidator, if needed. R. Registrar notification. Sale of assets. A. Final meeting. D. Think of LBNR SAFD as a law and order process for closing a company properly. Procedure of members' voluntary winding up, MVU. This process is used when a company is financially stable, solvent, but decides to shut down. The members' owners follow a structured procedure to close operations legally. Steps in members' voluntary winding up. 1. Appointment of liquidator. The company selects one or more liquidators to manage the winding up and distribute assets. 2. Board's powers end. Once the liquidator is appointed, the board of directors loses control unless allowed to continue by a general meeting. 3. Filling liquidator vacancy. If the liquidator resigns, dies, or leaves, the company must appoint a new one. 4. Informing the registrar. The company must notify the registrar about the liquidator's appointment within 10 days. 5. Selling company assets. The liquidator can accept shares, cash, or other assets in exchange for selling company property. 6. Meeting with creditors, if needed. If the company cannot pay its debts, the liquidator must call a meeting with creditors and present financial statements. 7. Annual General Meeting, AGM. If the winding up takes longer, a meeting is held every year to update members on progress. 8. Final meeting and dissolution. Once everything is settled, a final meeting is held and the company is officially dissolved. Short trick to remember: LBFSAFD. L. Liquidator appointment. B. Board's power ends. Fit form registrar. I. In sell assets. A. Annual meeting. D. Dissolution. Think of LBFSAFD as the legal process of shutting a company smoothly. Creditors' voluntary winding up, CVW. This happens when a company is not financially stable, insolvent, and cannot pay its debts. Since the company has no solvency declaration, creditors take control of the winding up process instead of the members. Steps in creditors' voluntary winding up. 1. Meeting of creditors. The company must hold a meeting with creditors to discuss the winding up process. 2. Informing the registrar. A notice must be sent to the registrar of companies about the winding up. 3. Appointment of liquidator. Creditors in the company appoint a liquidator to handle the closure process. 4. Committee of inspection. A committee of creditors may be formed to supervise the liquidator's work. 5. Liquidator's fees. The liquidator is paid as per the agreement between creditors and the company. 6. Board's powers end. Once the liquidator is appointed, the board of directors loses control. 7. Filling liquidator vacancy. If the liquidator resigns or leaves, a new one must be appointed. 8. Selling company assets. The liquidator can accept shares, money, or other assets in exchange for selling company property. 9. Annual meetings. If the winding up takes longer than a year, a meeting is held every year to update creditors. Final meeting and dissolution. Once everything is settled, a final meeting is held and the company is officially closed. Short trick to remember: MyALCFSAVF. M. Meeting of creditors. I. Inform registrar. A. Appoint liquidator. Liquidator's fees. C. Committee of inspection. S. Selling assets. A. Annual meetings. V. Board's powers vanish. Think of MyLCFSVF as a step-by-step process to close a bankrupt company. Procedure for creditors' voluntary winding up. When a company cannot pay its debts, the creditors take charge of winding it up. Here's the process in simple steps. Steps in creditors' voluntary winding up. 1. Meeting of creditors. 2. Separate meetings are held. A. Members meeting, shareholders. B. Creditors meeting, lenders. Notices of meetings are sent and published in newspapers and the official gazette. 2. Notice of resolution. Within 10 days, a copy of the winding up resolution must be sent to the registrar of companies. 3. Appointment of liquidator. Both meetings appoint a liquidator who will sell assets and distribute money to creditors. 4. Committee of inspection. Creditors may form a committee, max 5 members. Shareholders can also nominate 5 members, but creditors have the final say. Role: monitor the winding up process and guide the liquidator. Max members, 12. Minimum required, 2 or 1/3 of total. 5. Liquidator's remuneration. The Committee of Inspection or creditors decide the liquidator's salary. 6. Board's powers end. Once the liquidator is appointed, the board of directors loses all control. 7. Annual meetings. Every year, the liquidator must hold a meeting for creditors and members and present accounts. 8. Final meeting and dissolution. Once all assets are sold and debts cleared, a final report is submitted. Within 1 week, the liquidator files a report with the registrar. The company is officially dissolved within 3 months. Short trick to remember: MNLCC-BDF. Meeting of creditors, notice to registrar, liquidator appointment. Seat, committee of inspection. Seat, creditors control, liquidators pay. B, board's powers end. D, duty to call annual meetings. Final meeting and dissolution. Think of MNLCC-BDF as a step-by-step guide for shutting down a bankrupt company. Powers of liquidators in voluntary winding up. When a company is voluntarily winding up, a liquidator is appointed to manage the process. The liquidator has certain powers, which can be divided into 1. Powers that need permission, sanction. Can pay a group of creditors fully. Can make deals or settlements with creditors. Can settle outstanding debts and take security in return. Approval required from shareholders for members winding up, or court creditors for creditors winding up. 2. Powers that do not need permission. Can finalize the list of contributories, people responsible for paying company debts. Can ask for payments from shareholders, calls on shares. Can call general meetings to pass important resolutions. 3. Joint liquidators. If multiple liquidators are appointed, at least 2 must agree before taking action. 4. Power to ask court for help. Liquidator or any creditor can apply to the tribunal if they need guidance on legal matters. 5. Investigating fraud. If the liquidator suspects fraud, they can report to the tribunal. The tribunal can call company officers for a public hearing to investigate their actions. Short trick to remember: JIF, Joint Liquid Investigate Fraud. Powers with permission. Powers without permission involve the tribunal. F. Finalizing creditors and contributories. Think of JIPIF as a guide for what a liquidator can do. Winding up under court supervision. Sometimes a voluntary winding up is not enough, and the court steps in to supervise the process. This happens when 1. Court allows voluntary winding up with supervision. If a company decides to voluntarily wind up, the court can allow it to continue, but with certain conditions to ensure fairness. 2. Who can ask for supervision? Any contributor, shareholder, creditor, or even the liquidator can request the court to supervise the winding up process. 3. Why is court supervision needed? To protect minority shareholders from the majority, to prevent fraud by company members or creditors, to ensure fair treatment for everyone involved. Court can change the process. If the court feels that voluntary winding up is not working well, it can convert it into a compulsory winding up, forcing the company to shut down legally. Short trick to remember: SOPC. Supervision by court. O. Order can be requested by creditor, shareholder, liquidator. Protects minority and prevents fraud. Court can convert to compulsory winding up. Think of SOPC as the process of court-supervised winding up. Court's power to appoint or remove liquidators. The court controls who manages the winding up process. It can 1. Appoint extra liquidators. If needed, the court can add more liquidators to help with the process. 2. Remove a liquidator. If a liquidator is not performing well or there's an issue, the court can remove them. 3. Fill vacant positions. If a liquidator resigns, dies, or is removed, the court can appoint a new one. 4. Registrar can apply for changes. The registrar of companies can request the court to appoint or remove a liquidator. Example: imagine a company shutting down and the liquidator is taking bribes or delaying the process. The court can remove them and appoint someone better. Short trick to remember: RF. A. Appoint extra liquidators. R. Remove a liquidator. Replace if vacancy occurs. Filed by registrar if needed. Think of like a dog's bark. The court barks orders when needed. Status of liquidator. A liquidator is the person responsible for managing the process of winding up a company. His status changes depending on the type of winding up. 1 in compulsory winding up, ordered by court. The liquidator is an officer of the court, works under court supervision. 2 in voluntary winding up, decided by the company. The liquidator is only an agent of the company, not supervised by court. 3. Legal responsibilities. If the liquidator fails in his duties, he can be held responsible for damages to creditors or shareholders. 4. Not a trustee. The company's assets do not legally belong to him. However, he must act honestly and ensure proper payments. Example: if a company is being closed and the liquidator wrongly pays a creditor who is not eligible, he can be held responsible. Short trick to remember. LANT. L. Legal responsibilities. Damages if mistakes happen. A. Agent in voluntary winding up. N. Not a trustee of assets. Treated as court officer in compulsory winding up. Think of LANT like a lantern. The liquidator must guide the company properly. Types of questions for exam preparation. Short answer type questions. 1. What are the amendments in the Companies Act 2013? 2. What are the key features of a company? What is the lifting of the corporate veil? 4. Explain the doctrine of ultra vires. 5. What are the clauses of a Memorandum of Association, MOA? 6. How can the Articles of Association, AOA, be altered? 7. How is an MOA different from an AOA? What are the types of prospectus? What are the powers of directors? What is compulsory winding up of a company? Long answer type questions, detailed explanations. 1. What are the major principles of the Companies Act 2013? Write a note on the Companies Act 2710 and its principles. 3. Define a company and explain its types. 4. What are the steps involved in forming a company? 5. Define the Memorandum of Association, MOA. Why is it important? How can it be altered? 6. What is the Article of Association, AOA? What are its clauses and alteration procedures? 7. What is a prospectus? What are its contents? 8. Define directors and explain their qualifications and appointment process. 9. What are the duties and liabilities of directors? What is winding up? Explain the provisions for voluntary winding up. What is winding up under court supervision? Explain the provisions. Tip: focus on definitions, differences, steps, and legal provisions for a strong understanding.